So you've just been up to your eyeballs in art recently.
I have been up to my eyeballs in art. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I knew.
How many pieces do you think he had? I mean, you probably know. Did you inventory all of
I
them?
haven't had a chance to inventory. I've just been moving. I have 4 separate storage units in climate control. All of them are just packed with
So he had
paintings
thousands.
and paintings and sculptures.
And so his paintings, he used acrylic. He used those really cool pens.
Yes.
And then his what did he use for the sculptures?
The sculptures, they look like stone, but they're actually wood. It's wood and glue. He's never used any nails or anything. It's all glue. And with a great deal of pressure on it. So I had all these tools and the big clamps that hold everything together. And then he would spray them and texturize them. He went through a whole series of them, and they looked like stone. And then towards the end of his life, he started going through some of his older pieces and then spraying them again and making them look gold. And I thought it really does look like gold. It just brought the pieces out more, so you could see all the details. Sometimes when things are black, you can't really see the details on it.
Right.
So it was. Oh, thank you so much. Yay. And they're gorgeous. They're just gorgeous pieces. They're one of the pieces I was moving, and he's got the title on the bottom of it, and then he also has a little tag that he would put on to the side so that we'd be able to see it.
Right.
And one of the tags fell off, and I picked it up as I was walking through the house. It was Godzilla. And it's this huge piece, and I was like, that is such a great name for that.
Yeah.
I love it. Some of them, unfortunately, did not do well in storage that had been in a place that was not climate controlled.
Oh, no.
So there was a lot of crumbling pieces. It just breaks my heart that they're not out being seen.
Yeah. Well, they're going to.
But they will be. Yeah. I know in my heart that's going to happen.
Well, maybe if this is a start of something, we're going to have one of his pieces, or I don't know, one sculpture and one piece of art for the Aragon Foundation Gala.
Absolutely.
For the auction. Tell me, I mean, George was such a unique character, but like even more unique with his synesthesia. I never even knew about synesthesia before I met George. What do you know? Like, what percentage of the world has this gift?
That I am not. I don't know the exact numbers, but I would say like 5-10%.
You say what?
5 to 10.
5? Maybe. That seems even high. I would think it's even more rare than that, but.
There's different types of synesthesia. There's the yoking of the senses. Usually it's 2 senses. And for him, it was sight and sound.
Okay.
So whatever he was hearing, anything, all of this, the background noise, all of it, there was a constant color and shapes, geometric shapes associated with it. Languages had a specific tone and color and shape. Like I was asking him that, and he says, it's interesting. He says, there's like Chinese to me is very abrupt, and it's brown. Most of it's brown. But for English and Spanish, he could decipher the words themselves as a whole in a conversation had a color, but then the individual words and the letters, they all have a different color.
So the letters, the words,
letters,
and the entire conversation all have different colors going in his head at the same time.
And it's these different geometric shapes. And the way he explained it to me was that it's like there was a screen right here, and it was constant. No matter, it was just constant.
Kind of like those things you see in the movies where there's just like a, they can.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And it was almost like a movie screen in front of him, is what he told me. So most of the furnishings in our home, and there was a lot of black because he'd just get tired of seeing. And he would just say, I'm tired of seeing, and he would go to bed because he had to just shut down. It's sensory overload.
Yeah.
Really, he was very sensitive. I was very cognizant of that. We would go to concerts or to large gatherings, and it was just too much. I'd see him just sitting very quietly. I was like, I gotta get him out. at me.
Right.
It's just too much. And me, I'm like, whoa, let's go. Let's have fun.
But almost like on the spectrum in a way.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Uh-huh.
He did a lot of studying about everything, as you know, but in particular for this synesthesia, they've linked it to different, like really high functioning autism.
Right.
And it's a challenge. I mean, the amount of energy and mental discipline to be able to maneuver through this world for anybody, but then you have this added component
that very
Pretty
few people
impressive.
can understand.
That
Like
they
there's
don't
not
even
much of
understand
even
it.
a language for, right? So
exactly.
So he had to create art so he could show you what he was seeing on the daily, and it was just like, didn't you say it would just be like he'd take a snapshot of what he was seeing in his
Yes.
head,
Yeah.
and then try and paint that out?
Yes, he would listen to the same piece of music.
Uh-huh.
He'd find a piece of music he loved. He loved so much music. You know, you've seen the collection we have.
Yeah.
And he would listen to it over and over again, and then he would finally like this right here and take a snapshot of it. Then he would trace it out, and then he would paint it. And the colors were dictated by the music that he was listening to, as were the geometric shapes. All of it is 3D to him,
Yeah.
but he had to take a 3D image in his mind and put it on 2D.
He made it look very 3D though.
It
lot
does.
Of it. Yeah.
It does. And I have pieces in my office that I look at. I've been looking at for the last 3 years. That I still see different things, and that's the beauty of his art. It's not a constant. There's always something deeper in there that you see. His love of geometry and physics comes through in his paintings. There's the series that I have in my office. If you were to fold it in half, they would be exact mirror images of each other.
So like it's spliced in the middle, and then he.
But you don't see
Butterflied it.
that. Yeah, but you don't see that when you first look at it. It looks like, oh, there's a round painting with stuff around it.
Got it.
And it's not. And then you look at it again, and you notice the top and the bottom are equal.
Like a geode that they
Totally,
split open.
Everything is totally equal
Wow.
in the paintings, but they look fluid. They look like they're just and his use of fractals and just the time and space in his mind and his ability to capture it was just phenomenal. He was an architect, and he just loved. He loves the form. He loves the form, but he loves to have function with form, and he loved beauty with it. And he loved music. So
It's such a left brain, right brain like combination.
Marriage, yeah.
Maybe he did. There's like the corpus callosum, which runs, the division between
Yes.
the two sides of the brain. Maybe his were kind of connected in areas
Yeah.
that other people's weren't. Or
well, we have that bridge. Is that what that bridge is called between the left and the right? The
I think
corpus
it's
callosum?
yeah.
And then it kind of not calcifies, but it's not very open as we get older. I think his just is open. And I think it also has to do. He also could speak 7 languages.
Oh my God.
So he had, if you ask him, and if he learned something, it stayed with him. You could ask him something, and you could just see him going through his mind like, bup, 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 and then he'd give you the answer.
But was it auditory, or would he visualize it?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I think it
Because
was
the language
visual.
center is right deep in the center of the brain.
Oh,
so
I thought it was like more in. And it doesn't
Oh,
matter, in
really?
the back. Yeah, I thought it was in the back here, the language center, and it kind of closes off after age 7. That's why it's more difficult when you get older. I
To
I
learn a
read about
language.
that a long time
Yeah.
ago. They may have found different things since then to learn language. Yeah.
Well, I think when you're first born, a baby it babbles, so it makes every possible sound that you could
Yeah.
use in any kind of a language, and then as it learns the people around it, it starts to mimic those sounds, right? And that's
Yes.
where the neural pathways start forming. So if they're exposed to 5 languages at
Right.
an early age, it's
You
just
get
as
it.
easy
It's just as easy.
for them to learn, 5 as it is for them to learn 1. But
Exactly.
if I wasn't exposed to like Spanish per se, now I'm trying to learn it. I'm not very good at learning languages, but I'm good at patterns, like with dancing.
Yes.
Which
yeah.
is wild.
And your body holds the patterns.
My
and
body holds the
movements.
patterns
Yes, yeah.
in the movements. Yes. Well, when it's connected to auditory, to music,
yes.
that's where my memory is with music and patterns. So similar, he has music and patterns, but he visualizes it, whereas mine's more auditory. Well, I don't know, but
Kinesthetic.
Kinesthetic.
Yours is more kinesthetic, I would think.
Kinesthetic as opposed to synesthetic. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, ding, 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 ding. Oh, I'm sure
And speaking of languages, that they correlated a couple of things. One was, and they're all just popping up in my head, these things that I read. I love to read about this stuff, is birds. When they're born, baby birds and baby humans, same thing. They're just like, blah, 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 blah.
the babbling. Okay.
The babbling, and they sound very similar. And, oh God, what was the other thing? Well, it doesn't matter. Anyway, back to George.
Well, back
He
to
was
George.
phenomenal.
So I remember that you told me that George had a NDE at one point in his life. Did he have synesthesia from a really early age? Or,
Yes.
Okay, so it wasn't after his NDE that he was gifted these gifts. He had it from the beginning.
Yes,
Okay.
he told me that when he first got the baby building blocks with the letters all over it, the first thing he did was he went and got his crayons and colored them the right color, because they were not the right color.
Oh.
And he did not understand that no one else had this. He just figured everybody did
Of course.
this. And it wasn't until he said he was on a family trip, and he asked his brother, "What color is blue? What color is 5 to you?" And his brother's like, "What are you talking about?"
Right.
And he's like, "Well, it's blue, obviously." He didn't know what he had was called something till he was in college, and he went to take there was a course happening where they were doing psychological tests, and they're like, "Hey, do you want to sign up to see if you can do blah blah blah?" So he went, and they gave each of the participants a page, and it was nothing but numbers, and you were supposed to go through and just find the number 2. And it was like 200 or 300 lines,
Right.
Small print, and he was like, "Done." And he gives it to the professor, and he goes, "Well, how'd you do that so fast?" He goes, "Well, it's easy. 2 is yellow." Or whatever.
Yellow, yeah. Oh, wow.
And he goes, "Oh, you have synesthesia." And George goes,
Sinus
"Do
what?
I?"
Yeah.
So then that prompted him to do this research, and he's been featured in books and in Cambridge, and so
Did they studied him at Cambridge?
he's been part of studies, but no, they didn't really study him per se. And then back to the NDE, you were asking about that. Do you want to get into that, or?
Yeah, I'm fascinated with anything. So for the viewers or listeners, NDE stands for, of course, near-death experience. And George had a jolly old time, I think.
A whopper, yeah.
A whopper one.
He didn't believe anything like that before. He was adamantly like, "This is it. This is the end of my existence," and having that opened his mind and his heart to expand exponentially.
Yeah.
And it was an experience that he kept with him every day of his life. And I had asked him how it affected his everyday life, and you'd think, "Oh, it just makes you much more loving and kind." He goes, "No, it pissed me off because I didn't want to come back."
Right.
And every day I think about it, that I don't have, what am I doing here? So obviously we all have things to do here.
Right.
And for me, personally, I just think it's all about love. So
I do too. It's all about the love, baby.
it's all about the love, baby. He had been working. I think he was going to college. He was working, and had come back to. This was in Mexico City. Had come back to his apartment, and he was just exhausted. So we wanted to take a nap before he went to a night shift work someplace. And his girlfriend at the time was, I think she was an airline stewardess, and she was home, and he was the afternoon. He was like, "I'm just gonna take a nap." So she's reading her book, and he's taking a nap. The next thing, he's out of his body, and he's looking down, and he's like, "Whoa, what happened here?" And then he realized that he could see in 360 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a very long story, but suffice to say that he was able to just like, oh, I think I want to go to that tree, and he was there.
Yeah.
And then he was like, what is going on? And then he could see this thin silver line from him to his body.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of going around. There were all these components within this experience, but eventually, and it seemed like he was like this for a long time, but the time and space are sort of mixed up.
Yeah.
He is all of a sudden like he's being propelled forward, and everything around was sort of black, but there was a tiny white light.
Yeah.
And he said it felt like there was a big board behind him, like a giant door, and he's rushing on, and it's going so fast. He goes, I can't explain how fast. It just felt like I was
Speed
going
of light.
yeah, speed of light. And I'm thinking, I gotta get to that light soon. But it was like, oh, still going, still going, still going.
Wow.
It went on and on and on and on, and finally he could feel it slowing down, and then it opened up. And he sees this gorgeous crystal city, for lack of a better
Okay.
word. And as he's like, I'm there, I can't wait to get, and the love, he says, I cannot put into words the amount of love that you could feel
Yeah.
from this. Like, take a mother's love, newborn baby, times a zillion, it doesn't compare. And he's about to go in, and he just hears this voice saying, no, you can't come in. And George was not one to be told no.
All right.
because we know
Wanted
he
to argue with the God voice.
He argued, and he said he was shown his entire life and these major things that were going to happen to him. And he's like, yeah, that looks great. Don't care. I want to go in. He goes, no, you're going back. So he's arguing with what, he said, all I can tell you is the voice was like, God, what's
Morgan
that actor?
Freeman?
No, it wasn't Morgan Freeman. It was another guy like that.
Morgan wasn't in the budget.
It was another big name actor,
Yeah.
though, with a really deep voice. And he said, it just felt like a father figure. Because it wasn't my father, but it was a father figure. And he was arguing, and no, you're going back. So finally, and then all of a sudden, whoop, he's over top of his body.
Mm-hmm.
And he sees the little silver line.
Yeah.
And he's like, if I can just get that, I can cut it, and then they'll have to take me. And every time it would just go right out of his reach, go right out of his reach. And he would go in. And I think that's our guest right there.
Elizabeth?
Elizabeth.
Oh, you are!
Hi.
So, I know.